Hey everybody, we're here in Colorado Springs at the Prophecy Watchers Conference, and I've ran into the one and only Bill Salus, man, the major guy that broke ground on Psalm 83, which I attribute a lot of your help to help my ministry in understanding that passage, man. So anyway, I ran into him. He's going to be presenting here at Prophecy Watchers, and I want to make sure you guys tune in to what Bill has to say because he's full of a lot of good information. So Bill, tell the audience kind of what you're going to be teaching on here at the conference.
Yeah, I've got two messages, Brandon. The first one is the historical roots and climactic conclusion of the Arab-Israeli conflict.
Oh, that's going to be good.
Which was really helpful for us to understand because the political leaders of the world today are clueless of the deep-seated spiritual roots of the Middle East conflict, and they think that they can broker diplomacy, land for peace.
Yeah.
They think they can trade God's promised land for an elusive peace that's not biblically endorsed.
Right.
It's going to end militarily, and this is what we talk about with Psalm 83.
Yeah.
Israeli Defense Forces. One of the things I'll be emphasizing in that first talk is that the Israeli Defense Forces of today that we see burgeoning into a strong army exist in fulfillment of biblical prophecy.
Yeah.
We're watching them. When you watch the drone footage and them taking out a Hezbollah leader, pinpoint accuracy, Iron Dome taking things out of the sky, troops going through Rafah, these guys are all foretold to be part of an exceedingly great army. An exceedingly great army in Ezekiel 37,
that's a good point.
verse 10. And their purpose is primarily just to defend the nation against those Psalm 83 countries, those enemies around them.
Yeah.
Because they're not involved in Ezekiel 38.
Right.
God stops that.
Right. That's right.
They're not involved in the tribulation because in the first half of the tribulation, Israel's living in a peace.
Yeah.
It's a pseudo-peace because it gets violated at the midpoint when the Antichrist breaks the covenant.
Exactly.
And they're fleeing for their lives in the second half as instructed by Jesus. You know, you see the abomination of desolation.
Yeah.
Like Daniel spoken about in the holy place and, get out of Dodge and flee.
Right.
So I'm trying to show them the Israeli Defense Forces are going to take to task their Arab enemies. I go through a whole bunch of prophecies with Jordan. Jordan's got a fragile peace treaty with Israel, but that's not going to last.
Right.
Jeremiah 49:2 says there's going to be an alarm of war in Ammon.
Yeah.
Zephaniah 2:8 also talks about Israel winning a war, taking over land, annexing Jordan.
Wow.
Which is, and I point out in one of my talks, that's critically important because Jesus tells the people in Israel at the time of the abomination of desolation to flee to the mountains. And he's telling them to flee to the southern mountains in ancient Edom, which is in Jordan, southern Jordan.
Yeah.
And if that would happen right now, that'd be terrible advice because they wouldn't be able to get there.
Right.
But when they annex Jordan, that's the best advice they can have because that's a great place to be.
Excellent point. And the interesting thing, that area of Jordan is not controlled by the Antichrist for some reason. It seems like God has just kind of like sectioned that off to protect Israel. So it's interesting you said that. Now in your second talk, what are you going to be explaining in that one?
I'm going to be talking about the future of Israel in Ezekiel 38, the tribulation and the millennium. So I talk about basically how we get, the first talk sort of parses for the second message. How Israel can dwell securely, tear down the walls, have great plunder and booty. These are the prerequisites for Ezekiel 38 because Russia is going to bring its coalition with Turkey and Iran. There's 9 members altogether. Come down, invade from the north in the latter years to a peaceful people, dwelling securely, brought out of the nations in the latter years, without walls, bars, nor gates, in receipt of great plunder and booty, silver and gold, etc. That Israel, in my estimation, does not quite exist yet. Yes, they're brought out of the nations into the land. Yes, it's the latter years.
True.
But they don't dwell securely because they can't.
Right.
And they have walls all around them.
Yes.
Lebanon, the partition wall 400 miles down the center of Israel. They got walls around the Gaza. They got walls between the Sinai. They even got walls around Jordan. They're the most fenced in and fortified nation actually in the world. Those walls have to come down, and they will come down, and Israel will dwell securely, and that's when Russia's going to say, we're going to go after their plunder and booty. So it's going to require, after Psalm 83, when Israel can dwell securely, it's going to require them to start building again, annexing territory, getting plunder and booty. And when that happens, Russia's going to go, hey, let's go get them. And remember, I point out in the talk that most of those countries involved in Russia's coalition are Muslim. So they're going to have a built-in hatred when Israel takes out their Arab neighbors around them.
True.
In Psalm 83. And Russia's going to be able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this, because you're kind of a Middle Eastern expert. You watch the Middle East all the time, and you're focusing on that because that's Israel's God's timepiece. You think this war that's getting ready to start with Hezbollah could trigger a lot of this stuff?
I really do, and I think it will start. I mean, it's becoming quite obvious now that Iran is going to move Hezbollah into phase 2 of their war. Phase 1 is what we've been seeing since October 8th.
Yeah.
It's accomplished some important things. You know, it's created evacuees, almost 80,000 northern Israelis.
Yeah.
Remember, almost all those people have military skills.
Right.
I mean, not the children necessarily, but because there's mandatory draft over there.
That's true.
So they've taken out some potential combatants.
Yeah.
Because if they do a ground invasion, they don't want to have to face them as well as Israeli troops.
Good point.
It also hurt tourism, just killed tourism. We were in Israel recently.
Yeah, I was. And there was nothing going on. No tourism whatsoever, Bill, since October 7th.
Exactly. And what did you say? It was like a $6 billion industry? Or
yeah, it's like a $4 to $5 billion industry.
That's gone.
It's gone.
And they're totally in the war mode. It also has allowed time for Iran to build nuclear weapons.
Yes.
It's buying time.
Right.
It's also created a hysteria and panic that's now reached out into the whole world.
Yes.
Anti-Semitism on the campuses and these sort of things like that. There's several things that they've accomplished with that. These are just a few of them. But phase 2 is going to come. And it's going to ratchet up. Remember when on, what was that, April 13th or April 18th, when they sent over 300 missiles, Iran did?
Yes.
120 missiles,
Yes.
drones, etc.
Right.
They expected to hit their targets.
Yeah.
And those targets would have changed the whole landscape of the war over
Sure.
there. And they would have had to have, because Israel would respond, they would have had to have Hezbollah ready with their 150,000 missiles.
Right.
If they were successful to hit those targets.
Yeah.
They would have Syria ready with their chemical weapons, which they are ready to do.
Right.
They would have whatever's left of Hamas would be involved. Houthis got precision-guided missiles. They were planning on sending them. That's all just now been stalled because of the failure of 99% of those missiles were intercepted.
Right.
Which I believe was a God thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they were not prepared to have them intercepted.
Right.
So, and they had to be prepared for a full-scale war. Well, the full-scale wars, in my estimation, it could just be weeks away for all we know.
Yeah. No, it's just being over there, Bill. It's a ticking time bomb, and it looks like Israel, like on 7 different fronts. Whether you're dealing with Judea and Samaria and the Palestinians there, they're a ticking time bomb, and then still got to finish the business with Hamas. How does Iran play in all this? Obviously, they're in the Gog of Magog invasion, but we saw Iran, like you said, on October 13th and 14th, send over missiles. Is Iran the head of the snake behind a lot of this going on?
Yeah, of course, the proxies that we've been talking about, the 7-front war, are proxies of Iran. The 7 fronts. Now, Iran is also involved in another end times prophecy. I actually spoke about this prophecy in Jeremiah chapter 49, verses 34 to 39, the prophecy of Elam.
Yes, you
at
did.
your church.
At my church, yes, you did.
And that's a prophecy that's been vastly overlooked. It talks about the Lord getting fiercely angry. It's only 6 verses, Reader's Digest version. The Lord gets really angry. Why is he angry? He's angry at the bad leadership. How do we know this? He's going to destroy the kings and the princes from there.
Right.
Well, guess what? Who just died?
I know. In a helicopter
Former
crash.
President Raisi.
Yeah.
And then the other ambassador, the foreign leader there.
Right.
They both were taken out in a helicopter crash. Also, he says that he wants to destroy them because you wouldn't destroy good leadership, their bad leadership, because they want to launch something lethal somewhere. He's going to break the bow at the foremost of the might and not allow them.
Yeah.
Now, so we see these 300 missiles coming. We'd call those arrows in Old Testament terms.
Right.
The bow would be the missile launching things. Well, in this area we're talking about in Elam is the western area of the Iran by the Persian Gulf.
Okay.
And that's where they have all the portable rocket launchers.
Yes.
Their underground missile silos, their underground airport.
Right.
And the missile defense systems.
Wow.
They've got a hypersonic missile there that can get to Israel in 400 seconds.
Wow.
5 times the speed of sound. That's 6.66 minutes.
Oh my
Israel's
goodness.
Anybody's got to go through that area to get to the Fordo and the other nuclear sites, which Israel will be going after.
Right.
And they got to go through there. And it says that there's going to be a disaster. The Lord's going to bring about a disaster. He's going to break the bow at the foremost of the might, bring about a disaster. Probably nuclear, because then what happens? It says, I'll bring the winds from the 4 quarters of heaven, and I will scatter all those Elamites, the indigenous population, toward all those winds. There'll be no nations, where they don't go.
Wow.
Sounds like a humanitarian crisis spawned out of the disaster. It says, I'll pursue them with the sword, meaning it's probably a military, biblical typology of a confrontation. It says Elam will be dismayed before its enemies. plural.
Yeah.
And we got that in play right now. Israel's an enemy.
True.
The United States is concerned. Some of the Sunni countries are concerned.
Yes.
Etc. So I'm looking at kind of a wham bam thing here. I mean,
Yeah.
we're going to see the prophecy of Elam. We're going to see the proxy war with Hezbollah involved. Another prophecy that would create Israel in a position where they have to destroy Damascus.
Yeah.
Isaiah 17.
Right. Yeah. That's all lining up.
So we're talking prophecies.
Oh man. And this is, in one sense, a very exciting time to live because these ancient prophecies are setting up right in front of us. So let me get your take on Saudi Arabia. Where do they fit into the mix in all of this?
Well, that's one of my talks actually.
Is it?
They're involved in 4 end times prophecies.
Okay.
You would find them under the banner of Dedan, which would be northwest Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
They show up in 3 prophecies there. Or the Ishmaelites, what they're called, because Ishmael was sort of the father of the Arabs. He founded Arabia,
Yes.
Saudi Arabia today.
Yes.
And we find them in Psalm 83 as the Ishmaelites, right?
Yeah.
This confederacy that wants to wipe Israel off the map, that the name of Israel be remembered no more. So Dedan also shows up in Jeremiah 49. The first of the, and I think these are all going to kind of connect the first 3. The 4th one is independent of that.
Okay.
The first one, God warns them through Jeremiah. He says, flee back, Dedan, dwell in the depths when I bring about the calamity of Esau. Okay, well, Esau would represent, he had the Edomites. The Edomites had ethnical representation in the Palestinians.
Palestinians, yeah.
The calamity of Esau is going to be when the Israeli Defense Forces do the final successful defeat of all the Arab countries. And the Palestinians are going to be hurt real bad.
Wow.
Obadiah 1:18 says there'll be, the house of Jacob will be a fire, Israeli Defense Forces, house of Joseph a flame. The house of Esau will be stubble, and no survivors shall remain.
Yeah, no survivors.
So that's the calamity of Esau.
Wow.
And that's coming.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we say, flee back, dwell in the depths.
Yeah.
Well, they don't listen because we found in Ezekiel 25, verses 14 and 15, it says that I'll execute my vengeance on Edom by the hand of my people Israel.
Yes.
And Dedan shall fall by the sword.
Ah.
Okay, so they don't listen.
Okay.
And of course, Saudi Arabia is one of the Palestinians' best friends.
Right.
You know, you want to normalize relationships with Israel, Saudi Arabia, make sure you got a Palestinian state on.
Yeah,
the agenda.
they put that condition down. Yes, absolutely.
So, and the Ishmaelites, of course, I think that those first 3 kind of connect with the calamity of Esau. The tents of Edom show up in Psalm 83, referring the Palestinian refugees.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so basically you have that gets taken out of the way, and then but Dedan also lives to fight again, or survives, because they show up in Ezekiel 38 verse 13.
Yeah. Right.
Alongside the Yemen, Sheba, Dedan, the merchants of Tarshish,
Right.
and the young lions. So Russia brings its coalition down against Israel, and you got these protesters on the sidelines barking, you know, what are you doing, Russia? You're
Right.
coming for plunder and booty, because now they have commercial interests with Israel that are being jeopardized. And that's why the merchants of Tarshish becomes a term, not the athletes or the entertainers.
Yeah, interesting
So it's
point.
commercial.
Yeah.
They're coming to take away our commercial interests now.
Yeah.
Dan is among them barking on the sidelines.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And it seems to be all lined up right now, man.
It sure does, doesn't it?
Oh boy, man. So let me ask you this: you've been doing this for a long time, Bill, and I've learned a lot from you, and so you've contributed to my ministry. You've been studying this a long time. Anything that you would say caught you by surprise? Anything that you saw, whoa, I didn't expect to see that in my lifetime?
For several years, I was praying, God, when are you going to curse those who curse Israel? Because certainly those Arab countries have been at war with Israel. They're not blessing Israel, they're cursing Israel.
Yeah.
You want to wipe them off them. God, when are you going to curse those who curse Israel?
Right.
I prayed this for several years, and I got this still small voice thought in my head and said, Bill, what part of I'm a long-suffering God don't you understand?
Yeah, true.
And I realized, hey, that's why this hasn't accelerated yet.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's accelerating right now.
It is right now,
Yeah,
man.
so
Faster. Wow. So let me ask you this: you got people out here watching in the audience. How do they find you? How do they tap into your information?
ProphecyDepot.com. Prophecy Depot, like Home Depot. Easy to remember.
That's easy to remember, man. Prophecy Depot.
Prophecy Depot, like Home Depot.
Right.
We have a YouTube channel. If you search Bill Salus, SALUS on YouTube, we've got a great channel with lots of content. But those would be the places.
Great. Well, guys, you make sure you tune in to Bill, because I've learned so much from Bill. He's edified me. He'll edify you. Make sure you tap in. This guy is a Middle East expert, man. And so we appreciate all your work you're doing,
Thanks,
brother.
man. I appreciate it.
God bless you, Bill. Take care. We'll see you guys. Take care.